The Baltimore Ravens just hinted at a potential John Harbaugh replacement plan. We talk about that and so much more coming up next here on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire. We're here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning in today here on Taco Tuesday, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen every day as well. Free and available all podcasting platforms, including video form on YouTube where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and also an audio form where you can follow along and subscribe as well. 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. And today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Just because it's the offseason does not mean that Qadry Ismail is going anywhere, so he is back with us here today, former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver and Super Bowl champion in his favorite mode of the year, and that is offseason mode. Q. We actually had some Ravens news drop on Monday in pertaining to the coaching staff. The Ravens finalizing a deal with offensive coordinator Todd Monken, an extension there. A lot of people very happy with this move in general. It seems like for years, Q, last couple at least, we've been talking about the Ravens having to weather losing a bunch of coaches, weather losing a bunch of players. But here we are now. Doesn't feel like Baltimore's on track to lose a ton of coaches. Doesn't feel like they're on track to lose a bunch of players this year either. Feels like they can really, if they wanted to, run it back for the most part and continue to add on through free agency, the draft, and maybe even a trade or two.
So I want to first start by saying happy birthday week to you.
Thank you.
That when you go take that trip around the sun, we got to celebrate it. So we're celebrating it. And I know that the Ravens have disappointed you because you're going to be checking out the Pro Bowl games as opposed to sitting there making plans for us to do our show down in New Orleans and chilling out on Bourbon Street. So we're not going down to Bourbon Street, not going to have any of the great food. But yes, alas, we are talking Ravens again when it comes to offseason and how to build a team. To your point, I think that, yes, the Ravens are in good position. What does that mean? I am going to be Mr. Indifferent this entire offseason. You're going to be like, I don't even want to do a show with Qadry no more because why with the heck in the world he be indifferent? Because we've seen a team that has been successful in the regular season, gets to the playoffs. They do some really amazing things in the playoffs, but they're untimely blunders, like devastating. And it's interesting because with Twitter, people kind of share in your doldrums. And I mean, literally going back 2008, Troy Polamalu, pick six, 2009, fumbled interception all the way back to Indy. TJ Hushmanzada dropped on 4th and 18, wide open too, like great route, everything. That's 2010. 2011, Lee Evans and Billy Cundiff. 14, Joe with the interception in New England where he was like killing it. And if he would have just been poised, like why would you throw it? Just didn't make any sense. Tried to force it in there to Torrey Smith. Lamar had his strip sack in 2018. 2019, the 3 turnovers versus the Titans. You had the pick six in Buffalo, the COVID year. Huntley fumble, return for a touchdown. That just was like, no. 2023, you had Zay with his punch doggone out. And next thing you know, you're sitting there like, oh my God. Oh, okay, we're not going anywhere. And then, of course, 2024, Mark Andrews fumble and drop 2-point conversion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different seasons. And I'm being indifferent. I don't know if we're going to sign Ronnie Stanley. I don't know if we're going to sign Patrick Ricard. I don't know what we're going to do. And kicking him to the curb as far as Chris Board or what we're going to do with Brandon Stevens. Definitely don't think they're going to re-sign him, but who knows? Look at me, all just humdrum right now. I'm humdrum. But it's your birthday, so that's a good thing. The good thing also is that glass half full seems that the Ravens are coming to their senses as far as Todd Monken, and it would be great that they would have some level of continuity in the third year of the Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson relationship. I mean, that would be tremendous on so many accounts, because if you want to run it back, you got to have that continuity. And, oh, by the way, they fired their linebacker coach, DeLeon, and he needed to be fired. So, bye-bye. Okay. There. I got it all out. See how indifferent I was? Can you handle me this offseason?
Man, you're trying to ruin my birthday week with all these we're going down bad memory lane. You say, hey, happy birthday. By the way, here are all the misfortunes the Ravens have had over the last decade. But no, I appreciate you, Q. Yeah, my birthday was on Sunday, so would have been nice to celebrate a Ravens win going to the Super Bowl instead of having to watch the Chiefs go and watch the Eagles go. But hopefully the Ravens can figure things out. And with the Monken extension, at the time of this recording, we don't know how long or the money or whatever, and that might not even ever be revealed. But I think this was a very well-deserved for Todd Monken, who came to Baltimore 2 years ago. This is his third season now. Came in, and look, I think we've seen him. That's the big thing for me, Q. It's improvement. It's showing growth. And the Ravens over these past 2 seasons have done that on the offensive side of the ball. Monken has come in, I think has established a great culture, particularly for Lamar Jackson, where you could kind of tell with Greg Roman, Lamar and Greg weren't on the same page all the time, and there were certain things Lamar wasn't allowed to do in Greg Roman's system. Todd Monken came in and said, man, you're doing whatever you want to do, Lamar. This is your offense. Here are the keys. Go out and go do what you do. And that has given Lamar just immense freedom. Just for some stat records here, Monken comes in first year. Last season, the Ravens are the 5th best passing offense and the 3rd best rushing offense. They ranked in the top 10 in all 3 of third down conversion, fourth down conversion, red zone percentage. Fast forward to this past season, the Ravens become the best passing offense in the league, the best rushing offense in the league. Historic numbers. Derrick Henry comes in as the best season of his career. 2 MVPs in 2 years. I'm assuming Lamar wins this one this year. 2 MVPs in 2 years for Lamar Jackson. The Ravens become the best red zone offense in the league, third down percentage. Are you glad, Q, that the Ravens took this route with Todd Monken? There were some conversations about him. There have been conversations both years of him maybe getting the head coaching opportunity. His resume certainly says he should have one, but the Ravens obviously benefit from having him as their offensive coordinator.
So I think part of what was really cool about Todd Monken is the resume that he had coming in and him not deviating from it. So the resume is Todd has this uncanny ability to put out what is given to him in his offense. In other words, Brock Bowers, clearly stud tight end in college, stud tight end now with the Las Vegas Raiders. But, you know, what he felt he needed to do to help that team obviously win national championship. You get here to the Ravens and you see this phenomenally talented player, but what are the pieces around him? And through that, it was the evolution of the pick your poison offense. Now, clearly from a pick your poison offense, I'm indifferent in the offseason. The poison bit us a couple times. However, in fairness to the regular season, like his game planning and his lockstepness with Lamar, I mean, goodness, you know, games like Houston, games like Dallas, games like the Bills in the regular season. You know, we just saw game after game after game. Games, you know, the previous year like Seattle, going up against the Lions, you know, big-time teams, you know, and not flinching. That's the thing. Like, just, okay, we got these guys. We're not flinching. And putting the pressure back on your opponent. To me, the way in which Lamar has flourished, and as you're saying, there's a potential to go back-to-back, you know, like, sign him up. Let's go.
I do think that 2Q, the continuity of having Monken here, because it's honestly very rare in today's game, especially if you're a good team who has a lot of good coaches, you're able to keep your staff together. I think in Kansas City, that is a rare thing, especially with Steve Spagnuolo, who's done an incredible job with that defense. I know the league is kind of going into, we want these younger offensive minds that can help develop our quarterbacks and can be with us for the next 10, 15, 20 seasons. I think teams are missing out by not giving Todd Monken a shake here. Not that he hasn't had opportunities to interview, but it also is the team has to want the coach and the coach has to want the team. And frankly, there hasn't been a lot of incredible openings, especially this past season. I mean, there were a few, but I feel like next year could be a very intriguing year when it comes to openings because there are a lot of Bills fans saying, hey, McDermott's not getting us over the hump. Steelers fans, hey, Mike Tomlin, it's been a while, not getting us over the hump. And in Baltimore, there are differing opinions on John Harbaugh and whether he is the right man to continue to lead the job. Harbaugh is in the last year of his contract. There have been a lot of questions sparked with the Monken extension about, is John Harbaugh next? Are they going to let him run out this deal in 2025, see what happens? But Q, did the Ravens hint at maybe Todd Monken being an internal replacement for Harbaugh if it doesn't work out? Because you obviously, with that would come a big pay bump for Todd Monken with a new deal and whatnot. But essentially Baltimore saying, we're investing in you, Todd. We like what you've done. If it doesn't go the way we want it to with Harbaugh, I know there are a lot of people who are saying this is make or break for John Harbaugh. I'm one of those people who are saying if it doesn't work, how long can you continue going with that?
You know what? I kind of was in mourning after the game. And then I'm looking at, again, the list of blunders that have occurred, going all the way back, like Lamar Jackson and them were in college, winning Heismans, and, Ryan Stanley and Derrick Henry and all them were at Alabama or, all the different places. And that was then. And it's still the common thread is John Harbaugh. The common thread is McDermott. The common thread is Mike Tomlin. Because then I saw the other side of it where you had Andy Reid, you had what's his name, Nick Sirianni, but who's in between Nick Sirianni and Andy? Doug. So when you look at the three head coaches, all of them had mega success, and yet the Eagles made these difficult decisions to go away from some really, really strong coaches. And even Nick Sirianni, his job was on the line. They was about to go away from him too. So that, in my mind, I mean, Roseman is what do I need to do to be strong and powerful as getting my team ready to compete and play? Who are those pieces that we need? And he's done that. But I think the coach and just how they've gone about it, bruh, I got to say, those other coaches that we named, the McDermotts, the Tomlins, and the Harbaughs of the world, I know Andy Reid is yeah, all right, bet. I have my 4 NFC championship games. That's all right. I'm going to go over, and we're going to go to 7 straight. 7 straight. Just pause on that. Don't even, the listening audience wants to listen in, just count to 7 on your fingers. 7 straight AFC championship games in a tough AFC period. And just gone. And at the same time, from there, has a chance to make history as far as winning back-to-back Super Bowls. I just think that Todd Monken, turning it right back to what you were saying as far as him, the extension and the whole flow, man, I miss, this is tough. This is the reality for all of us, and we're trying to figure it out when it comes to, what's next for the Ravens. How do they get over that consistency hump? And is it Todd Monken in waiting? Because I do feel like you feel man, I think it honestly it's Super Bowl or bust next year for John Harbaugh.
Yeah, and it's such an intriguing conversation. I want to dive more into it in the second part of the show because there are other factors that could go into this as well. So we're going to come back here on Locked On Ravens. Stay tuned. Lots to dive into next. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Back here on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher, Qadry Ismail, still talking about a very intriguing conversation. Todd Monken extended with the Ravens. He is not going anywhere. But for John Harbaugh, this is a coach that has had a ton of success. Obviously, the playoffs, since Lamar Jackson has come into the fold, it has not been as successful. You know, if you're cute, those Harbaugh Flacco days, or they were just early in his, they were killing it together. They were going to AFC Championship games. They were winning Super Bowl. And here we are now. And of course, Lamar's 3-5 in the playoffs. A playoff record, I think, is overblown in terms of Lamar himself. But the postseason success is the postseason success. And I know there's a lot of conversation about the Ravens. They're a very loyal organization. I think that is a very big pro to the way they do things. I mean, I think that sometimes they can be a little over loyal. We've seen that at times, but I think it's better to be over loyal than under loyal. And I think that is given them their reputation. Now, John Harbaugh's in the last year of his deal. There have been questions and rumblings about, hey, if John Harbaugh doesn't get the job done, could they just let that thing expire? Maybe he transitions into a front office role or something. Maybe he still wants to coach and he goes off and he goes somewhere else. But for Todd Monken, he is more than deserving of an opportunity, in my opinion. I think that the attractive options head coaching wise will be available in the offseason, because you also have to remember, Q, maybe Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins don't get the job done and they move on from him. And, you know, you have maybe some playmakers there you can work with. There are a couple of other options too. If they decide to go external with this thing, if Harbaugh does leave, get fired, whatever, there's no guarantee that the coach that comes in wants Todd Monken to stick around. That's why I think this is such a big vote of confidence in Monken's direction, regardless of if Harbaugh stays after this year, Harbaugh goes after this year. I think it's a huge vote of confidence what Monken brings to their team.
I think so too. I mean, but that's the thing. So continuity is one thing. I know that in the continuity, though, you have a generationally talented, franchise quarterback. So why would you want to mess with that? And then I think from a head coaching standpoint, it does change somewhat if Todd would become the head coach, because now you're going to have a de facto offensive coordinator and manage the team. Of course, Andy Reid has been that guy as far as offensive coordinator and calling plays. And, we know it. He was when Eric Bieniemy and both him, kind of shared the duties in a sense, but he still maintained, the flow of everything when it comes to the defense and everything, and hire good guys like Steve Spagnuolo. So it can be done. It'll be different. I think that for John Harbaugh and them, the continuity is important, vitally important. However, in the bigger picture, yes, it could be a situation where you have your in-house guy, and now that in-house guy is okay. Like this is appropriate. Like this is what we need. This is what we want. This is the deal. Like with Todd Monken, we can say, hey, we want him as our head coach, and let's see how it all rolls. Obviously, other teams are looking at him and seeing just his leadership. Other teams are saying that, Todd has this, whatever ability to connect with the players and all those things. This is always, see, this is again, and like part of it, I'm not being funny, but part of it is like, this is what frustrates me about the offseason, because it's a lot of conjecture. You really don't know. You gotta let it play out. Like you just don't know who is going to either entice somebody piss somebody off. The money isn't right. Somebody's tone is different. Whatever. Somebody wake up from a dream and, their significant other says, oh, we should move on. And, oh, yeah, we should move on. Or, man, I just really like this coach. And I think this is important. Or that general manager, he's not doing his job. And just all of it, there's so much that goes on that you don't have control. And I think that, for me as a player, I appreciated the fact that, there's 4 quarters. Okay, great. You got your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Hey, boom, Friday's perfect Friday. Let's go out there and ball out. Just don't have that in the offseason. You got a lot of unknowns. And I think Todd Monken's known, damn good coach, showed up as far as the Ravens offense, generationally talented player, got better, and he is a good, strong leader of men.
There are so many things that this offense has done, not only for Lamar, but for the entire team and the way that they operate here. I think it's brought balance. I think it's brought continuity, which is the thing that we're talking about. But what do you want to see in year 3, Q? Obviously, we're not going to know the personnel on the roster until we get to week 1. But based off of what we saw this past season, what things do you want to see maybe Todd Monken add on, Todd Monken in this offense get better at? What's kind of your assessment on the offense as it is now, what you want to see in the next evolution of it?
Todd Monken's offense does a really good job of featuring those that Derrick Henry, Dallas game was like a coming out. Like, man, that's the creativity of the run block scheme, but Derrick Henry being Derrick Henry. In that game, we saw how Charlie Kolar, was able to get off. Then in the Cincinnati game, you also saw like an Isaiah Likely, a Charlie Kolar again, then a Mark Andrews, but you also saw Bateman and Zay. Those 2 games, I'd love to see more of, minus any mistake, to win a dominantly convincing game, yet also a close game, because you can. Because if you look at the guys over in Missouri, well, they're going to New Orleans and they've been to 2 others and they won those. They've been to a 4th, actually, technically. But this year, they had this, it doesn't matter. We'll win by any means necessary. And I love that. Any means necessary. They play with poise. And, it's all, on the leadership, on the sideline, over into Patrick Mahomes and number 15 just being just so incredible with the way he distributes the football. That to me would be a great opportunity to have another evolution into what I think is a great and dynamic offense.
And I think that, again, it's Todd Monken's willingness to learn, to listen, to better himself. It's not just about, okay, we're doing what I want to do. The ceiling is there. There honestly is no ceiling for this offense, considering what we've seen. Oh, yeah. But just figuring out how to get there more consistently, I think, is the big thing with me and Todd. But coming up in the final part of the show, we'll be diving into Q's final thoughts on the Todd Monken situation, as well as looking at some media responses from Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, because they're very different. Plus, Jalen Milroe, he had some big praise for Lamar Jackson and revealed himself as a certain fan of a certain team. So be sure to stay tuned. We got a lot coming up on Locked On Ravens. First, the show is brought to you by LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. Here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture. Double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high-quality hires. Post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Back here, our final segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Ostreicher and Qadry Ismail still talking with you here. And I didn't mean to cut you off. But he had some final thoughts on the Monken situation. I want to let him get those in. So, Q, what do you got? Because I think, again, there are so many different layers to Monken, to Harbaugh, to what this could mean for now, for the future. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, the one thing I think, with from a Monken aspect of things, it's the elephant in the room of Mark Andrews. And what I mean by that, you saw all those lists I read the list of the mistakes in the playoffs. And so you're like, all right, I want to overcome these mistakes. In overcoming those mistakes, one of the things I'm curious about is how do you overcome if you're Mark Andrews, because nothing really matters in a regular season, and you got to fight your way to get back to that postseason, and you got to just have a phenomenal postseason. Statistics are statistics, and the statistics that show Mark Andrews not being as good in the postseason as he was in the regular season, to me, is really appalling. And that, to me, where Monken thoughts are, how do you get guys to still have that excellence and that want to, and then how do you elevate yourself into that postseason? That, my goodness, man, that's just something that's on my mind. Like, wow, how do you do that? And I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a mindset shift or or the lights bright. Like, are they too bright? What does it mean? Because Mark's a good player. A lot of these guys, we know they're all-star Pro Bowl players, but some guys are playoff risers, some guys are playoff droppers, and that's not like a shot at anyone. That's just sports. Like, it just is what it is. Some guys perform better when the lights are on, some guys don't, and that's just the reality. So for Mark, it's been disappointing, definitely. And we've seen multiple times throughout the postseason, him either being injured, which has been difficult, or him, having key mistakes. So with Monken, if Mark stays, I know that's a different conversation, but if Mark stays in the offense next season, he's going to have a lot of room to work with Mark and Isaiah and Charlie to kind of figure out that tight end room. But then after that, and that year's done, that room's going to look very different because one of Andrews and likely will not be there. I just don't think they can put that much money into that position. It's the same thing of Roquan and PQ. You just couldn't pay two linebackers big money contracts. It's the same thing at tight end. So I'm hoping that maybe Todd can unlock even a better version of Mark Andrews. And that's kind of crazy to say because Mark is already good, in my opinion. But maybe that unlock is playoff Mark Andrews. And we see a good thing there. But shifting gears over, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, two great quarterbacks 1 and 2 in that order. Lamar 1, Josh 2, in my opinion. Great seasons. Lamar obviously fell to Josh in the divisional round. Josh did not get the job done against Kansas City. But the conversation around both players in very similar, not exactly similar, but similar situations, their tight ends cost them in a big moment. Josh and that. Look, first of all, throw from Lamar, we talked about it last week, Q. That was a fine throw. All right, I know a lot of people were ragging on Lamar for it. That was a fine throw. The Josh throw was incredible based on the circumstances. I know, who was it? Shakir was open down the sideline, I think, but he throws it up because the pressure was there from Steve Spagnuolo. Kincaid drops the ball. And all the conversation around Lamar Jackson after he lost to Buffalo on that 2-point was, man, did Lamar let the Ravens down? That throw from Lamar wasn't great. And this is stuff we've all seen before. Well, Josh loses to Kansas City. And we've talked about this show quite a bit. We've talked about it where over on the facility, you got Emmanuel Acho, Shady McCoy, Chase Daniel, James Jones over there. Two very different headlines week to week basis. When the Bills beat the Ravens, the facility's headline is the Ravens loss on Lamar Jackson. Now, fast forward to yesterday when the Bills lost to the Chiefs, the headline on the facility was, feel bad for Josh Allen. So we can't feel bad for both players, or we can't criticize both players. It has to be, well, Lamar's going to get the blame, but Josh is going to get a pass. Josh had, 7 or something turnover-worthy plays in that game. I get they didn't result in turnovers, but regardless, it wasn't like Josh played a flawless game. There's nothing against Josh. I'm not coming on here to rag about Josh. It's just that we're in this like time loop, Q, where Lamar gets talked about one way, but then a similar situation happens with another great quarterback. And then it's just a completely like, oh, it's not that quarterback's fault. And that to me, I think is the problem here. It's either hold both guys to the same standard both ways. Either they both did something wrong or they both get a pass. Don't give a pass to one guy and let the other guy knock it off the hook.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how it should be. I don't know why that narrative exists. I know the facility, they're, guys that have played, and I think they are sure in a sense entitled to their opinion and all the things. But heck, even as a former player, know that I'm not here to really just like, dang, you just didn't, but I'm also going to let you know, like, if you're not living up to what you're supposed to, then I need to, express those things. So I think from a quarterbacking aspect of it all, there have been like times throughout Lamar's career, like, that just the play of him, that just wasn't it. That being said, the Lamarites come out. When you praise Lamar, then you have the anti-Lamar come out. And then you're kind of like, all right, this is like weird space, because no other quarterback gets that. You don't get like a Lamarite weirdo that you can't even dialogue. But then you also, like you're saying, you get this anti-Lamar behavior where, Lamar, threw a good ball. He, was right there. Heck, he put it on the numbers for there was Mark's, there was Derrick Henry's, and I think Bateman's was his fault because he was saying that the angle that he threw. So, but those other plays were like, man, those are good stuff. Like, I don't understand how come, the Kincaid play, you feel bad for Josh Allen and you trip out on Lamar. I don't understand that.
Yeah, and it's been a constant throughout Lamar's career, so it's sadly nothing new here. But the fact that we are in year 7 for Lamar, and in my opinion, he's about to win his 3rd MVP, and we're still having those conversations. I get, Lamar has 3 MVPs. You hold multi-time MVPs to high standards, right? I understand. But then if you're going to do that, don't put Lamar in conversations with Josh and say he's better than Josh, say he's better than Burrow. That's a whole different thing. But Lamar Q is becoming the standard. And if you remember, I think you and I talked about this back in October, I think it was maybe November. Dan Patrick on his show said that one of his sources said, oh, well, Jalen Milroe, I think he said he's a better passer than Lamar, And Jalen Milroe was asked about that at the Senior Bowl. He was asked about the comparisons to Lamar Jackson. And Jalen, who, by the way, great player, great kid, unbelievable, said that's inspiring for sure as a young QB. That definitely puts a smile on my face. I definitely love watching Lamar. Secretly, I'm actually a Ravens fan. I grew up a Ravens fan, so I pull for the Ravens. So don't tell that to the Browns, or don't tell that to the Steelers. This Jalen Milroe Ravens fan playing for the Steelers or for the Browns, you got to prepare for that if that's a possibility. But it's interesting because, exactly. Yeah, he'll hide it in there. A lot of these people coming out of college, all these players coming out of college, look up to Lamar and view him as somebody, hey, some of these quarterbacks, while I think there truly still is only one Lamar Jackson, a lot of these guys, especially maybe kids in high school, kids at the lower level, they are looking up to a Lamar and saying, hey, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And I think that it's amazing to see the impact Lamar has had not only on the NFL, but on just football as a whole. So that's just another tidbit here for the Ravens. Of course, we're all things Ravens on Locked On Ravens, and Q is a big part of that. So Q, I appreciate you as always for hopping on. Please tell people where they can find you and what you're working on as we just continue diving into the offseason. And since it is my birthday week, can I get one Devonta Freeman's the best running back in Ravens history? Can we get it? Can we get it finally?
Woo, man. I mean, let's just say Eric Rhett is a better running back than Devonta Freeman for the Ravens. I'll give you a little bit of that.
Wow.
Man,
all right.
Outside of that, but it is about MrTraining.com. MrTraining.com is where you can find me, locate me, have a conversation about your fitness and wellness, about your opportunity to be a better mover. And if you are an athlete, how you going to be a better mover and stay durable throughout your season. I think it matters when your best ability is your availability, and if you're a great mover, you don't put yourself in dangerous non-contact injury situations. So missiletraining.com is where you can find me. And then, of course, WJZ. I'll be on WJZ from time to time throughout the offseason, but definitely during the season, you'll see me each and every week on that platform. But Locked On Ravens, Kevin Ostreicher and I, yes, birthday boy this week and every week, we get a chance, chop it up, talk football, off-season, in-season, all things Ravens. Check us out. Here is where we're at.
And you know the drill. All the work that Q does, the links will be in the description down below. So be sure to check out missiletraining.com. Q absolutely knows his stuff, both on sports and performance and also on the Baltimore Ravens. So Q, I appreciate you. Thank you for joining me again. And thank you to everybody who listened to Locked On Ravens today. We'll, of course, be back here tomorrow talking more Ravens football. So be sure on the way out, hit that like and subscribe button in video form and follow along and subscribe in audio form. I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.